All right, we are back live tonight. It is Tuesday, November 12th, the day after Veterans Day in the year 2024. My name is Bill Miksch. I'm president of WDMA Financial Group in Grayslake, Illinois, where we protect your life, we protect your health, we preserve your wealth, and guarantee an income for the rest of your life, and I couldn't say it if it weren't true. Welcome back, everybody. This is 101.5 FM, WLCB, Slade's Corner, Wisconsin. Sean is on assignment tonight, so guess what? You all who are listening, if you want to take a chance and go on the wild side, you can try to stump the master. Good luck. You might. Never know. So the phone number here is area code 262-342-6588. I promise you, if you call and I recognize your voice, I won't bust you. I will pretend that I've never heard of you before. But you might get a text message during the show that says, I know it was you. So that's okay. Last week before the election, I think I shared a story about my son and I went to northern Wisconsin to go muskie fishing, and it was a great trip. Wonderful place up in St. Germain, Wisconsin. Little Arborvita Lake was the lake we fished. We brought 6 muskie to the boat, boated 3. Trevor caught his first muskie, 35-inch, 9-pound. And then I caught 2 muskie. One was a 35-inch, 6-pound. The other one was a 42-inch, 20-pound hog. Those 2 fish came within 2 minutes of each other, folks. So when Trevor's got video of me holding both muskies in the boat at the same time, so it's pretty exciting. But we also just had an election. And for the first half of tonight's show, we're going to chat about my views on what can now take place, because remember last week the word we had was elections have consequences. So now that Donald Trump is the president-elect and he's starting to establish his cabinet and he's already pronouncing things that he's going to do, there are always going to be ebb and flows in any policy decision that any politician is going to bloviate about. So we're just going to chat about some things, good, bad, and otherwise. I want to make it clear this is not a political show, and I'm going to try my darndest not to make it political. I'm just going to establish what I see as an advisor, both in the healthcare area and the retirement area, and suggest some of my concerns with regard to the good, the bad, and the ugly of what is about to happen. And then the second half of the show, we are going to get back into our discussion that we started a couple weeks ago on retirement and how annuities play a role in your retirement activity. And just as an example in that space, and I'm going to share this as a tease. I was talking to somebody about a seminar I'm doing day after tomorrow on Thursday. I did one last week in Wooddale at the Wooddale Public Library on Medicare as Medicare 101. We did not talk product. We just talked about basics of what Medicare looks like, what to anticipate, what you need to know, how it works, etc. And then this Thursday at the Wooddale Public Library is a seminar, Retirement 101. Again, no product knowledge. So we're not going to talk about, particular stock or bond or mutual fund. I can't anyway. I'm not licensed. We're not going to talk about annuities per se. We're going to talk about what retirement looks like. And some of the screen slideshows that we've got, there was a couple things that came to my attention. One was there was a great slide on the time value of money. And if you start early, how that compounding can really take an effect. And I wish in every bone in my body that this kind of stuff is taught in the schools to kids that are 15 and 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20, because it's simple math. You don't have to be rich to start, but just start. And you don't have to put 15% away if you don't want to. I get it that you've got college loans and that kind of thing. But time is the only thing that we all have equal of. We can't get that back. And when you don't take advantage of those time things, and I know life happens, but when you don't take advantage of it, it is a painful process when you get to the other side, and now instead of a small shovel and a pail, you need a bulldozer. So there was that, and there was this. Somebody had said to me that they didn't think, and this came from a client who I was talking to who has an Edward Jones advisor. And this is not to pick on Edward Jones. This is just a particular person at that that investment company. And he said, if you put your money into an annuity and you start to take income from it and you die, you lose it all. And my reaction was, that's information that is not correct. There are some products like that, but the vast majority of them don't work that way anymore. And for the vast majority of advisors sitting in a chair that I sit in, we would be derelict in our duty to put something like that in place for anybody. Because the last person you want to make rich is the insurance company. They're already going to make their money. They're not going to lose, I promise you. So we're going to talk about some of that stuff, and I want you to put in the back of your mind, this is for the second half of the show, the word fiduciary, because I think it's being thrown around improperly, and I will explain what I mean in the second half of the show. So, like I said, Sean's not here tonight. We are back. It is about 6:10 Central Time at 101.5 FM, WLCB, Slades Corner, Wisconsin. This is your Insurance Corner, and we can take calls tonight at area code 262-342-6588. That's 262-342-6588. I welcome your calls. You can call me on virtually any subject. I can tell you right now, in the spirit of the last quarter of the year, health insurance, health care in general has been a lightning rod. And I'm just going to share a couple things with you that I've learned over the last couple of days in doing my reading and research and the like. Let's start and this is Illinois, folks, but this can be any hospital system around the country, because there is always pressure on insurance companies and hospital systems as they fight for who's got more money to bargain with. As of January 1st, for those of you who might be listening, there is a network called Blue Precision HMO in the state of Illinois. Blue Precision HMO is a small HMO that caters to people in group market between 2 employees and 50 employees. It also is a product that is available on healthcare.gov. That particular product, as of January 1st, will no longer have Advocate Health System as a part of the network. Now, that's going to cause some shivers. There are alternatives. Advocate is still in, for small companies between 2 and 50, Advocate is still in United Healthcare. It's called Charter, or it could be Navigate. Either way, it's still available in United Healthcare. Advocate is still included in Cigna, but that's usually for bigger companies, for sure 25 and over. It's definitely in Aetna. And there may be some other networks, but Blue Cross Blue Precision HMO no longer has Advocate Health Systems as of January 1st. Now, that's going to create a small tsunami of problems for people, especially people that are in the middle of some serious medical issues that they're ongoing. However, if you are in the individual marketplace, there is a product, again, Illinois, called Blue Care Direct. I don't usually talk about product, but because this is a major deal, you need to know what the deal is. Blue Care Direct specifically caters to Advocate. It is their own health program. That is still alive and well in the healthcare.gov space. So if you absolutely have to have Advocate, even if you're in a program with an employer, you do have the right to at least look at the Blue Care Direct. Now, let me just explain one other thing. There are these things called subsidies in healthcare.gov. I want to make it very clear, a subsidy is based on what you think your income is going to be for calendar year 2025, not what you made in 2024. It's a projection. Based on that projection and the household of your and the number of people that you may insure in your household or number of people in your household, the premium is going to be established, and then a subsidy may very well likely be established. That subsidy is a credit against the retail cost of the health insurance policy. So let's say, as an example, the premium retails for $1,000, and the subsidy...
A new station alert has arrived.
Oops. There's a $500 credit. There's a $500 credit. So you're only paying $500 a month. That other $500 is a loan. It's not a gift. When you file your taxes at the end of the year, folks, the government's going to settle up with you. Did your income that you put on the table match what you projected, or did it come in lower? If it came in lower, your subsidy, your refund may be bigger. If it came in higher, I promise you, a good chunk of that subsidized premium is going to be paid back. A big chunk of it, potentially. So you want to pay attention to that. That's the first thing. The second one is this. If you're offered affordable health care by your employer, it's possible you may not qualify for a subsidized premium. Let me say that again. If you are covered by your employer and they offer affordable by definition, there's a specific definition. I'm not going to get into it right now. It'll make your eyes water. If it's deemed affordable by definition, you would not qualify for the subsidy. So now you're going to pay the retail cost. But if you need Advocate, it's available to you. People are supposed to be getting letters in the mail saying Advocate has moved on from Blue Precision. So for those of you that are listening to my show, if you know anybody in Blue Precision and you know specifically their providers are Advocate-based, please let them know. If they haven't been told already, which is very possible, Advocate is leaving Blue Precision HMO as of January 1st of 2025, which affects the small group market between 2 and 50 and the individual market. All right, so that's one thing. The other thing is that there was lots of articles of insurance companies seriously concerned about the cost of health care going up. I'm going to give one example of this. One of the carriers that we represent, we're not going to say who at this point, and let me just say at the outset, all insurance companies pool. Everybody pools their risk. There's not a single carrier that doesn't. So setting that idea of pooling aside, this particular pool with this particular insurance company is getting a 24% rate increase across the board. And then I was advised by the same salesperson at this carrier that that rate increase just brought up their pricing to just barely over what their new business rates are right now. So if their new business rates are 20% and the pool is getting a 24% rate increase, you can see where health insurance costs because of claims are going up. The cost of health care is not going to settle. I had another conversation with another person today. They were complaining that their Obamacare plan went up. Yep, it did. Do you foresee this ever settling down? No, I do not. I don't. Not for any time in the foreseeable future. However, this is where the elections and elections have consequences could help rearrange the marketplace to maybe create some alternative options for people that want all their options. The Affordable Care Act basically is a guarantee issue, but you can only apply under certain circumstances. At the end of the year, between November 1st and the middle of December, or if you have a qualifying event like you lost your job, or you turn 26 and you got to come off your parents' plan, for example. You had a divorce or somebody retired, etc. Those are qualifying events, life events. But the policies are guarantee issue, which means it's take all comers. On one hand, that's good. You don't have to answer any health questions. On the other hand, the insurance companies are not able to manage their risk. This may be an opportunity for the government, the federal government in particular, since they pushed through the Affordable Care Act back in 2012, with a lot of smoke and mirrors, by the way, that they maybe have an opportunity here to fix some things. I don't think the Affordable Care Act is going to go away. That would be hitting like the third rail. That would be like taking Social Security and throwing it out the window. It's not going to go away, but I think the system can be amended if thoughtful people think through this and think of ways in which they can offer different modes of health insurance for people that are otherwise healthy, and can afford to maybe take on different levels of deductibles, don't want maternity coverage, don't want mental health, want just a bare bones hospital, doctor, prescription, maybe physical therapy, etc. kind of thing, bare bones. Make it a la carte. Yes, it could make it a little bit more confusing, but now you can actually price for some of that stuff and maybe reduce the cost of health care for people that are able or wanting to buy that and still have the Obamacare stuff available for those people who would otherwise not qualify for stuff like that. So there is an opportunity here to fix things. On taxes, there is an opportunity, particularly since the Trump tax cuts are fading away, basically sunsetting at the end of next year, 2025, at the end of 2025. One of them is an estate tax. The estate tax right now is $13.5 million. Is $13.5 million. I apparently have some things on my phone, and I haven't been able to turn them off. And so I jumped because I got this thing in my ear. So I apologize if you heard that, folks. I don't have the time to figure out what the problem is on my phone. So if you hear some things in the background, that's what's going on. Anyway, taxes, estate taxes. Currently, the threshold is $13.5 million, roughly. So if you're worth $13.5 million, a dollar more and you've got an estate tax problem. At the federal level, we're not going to talk about the estate tax problems that people will have at a variety of states, including Illinois. And for a couple, you can transfer about $27 million. So this is definitely for rich, very wealthy people. People that did well for themselves, built businesses, built wealth, built a whole bunch of things for them, their families, the businesses that they own, etc. Good for them. That's the American dream. Absolutely. Not everybody can do that, but it is what it is. That estate tax is going to sunset at the end of next year. There's an opportunity to allow that estate tax to be pushed forward and maybe make it permanent. Now there will be one side will say that's a tax break for the rich. It was already there. We just made it permanent. It's not an untrue statement. It is a tax break for the rich. But let me explain how the estate tax works, folks. So let's just say you got a single person, you're worth $33.5 million. And the exemption is $13.5 million. That leaves you with $20 million. That's definitely going to be estate tax. Some of that is going to be your property, your home, your cars, your second home maybe. Some of that's going to be your business potentially. Some of that's going to be your 401k or retirement money. Some of that could be life insurance. Some of that could be your stocks and bonds and mutual funds, the stuff that you have liquid per se. Some of that could be annuities. All of the above. Collectibles, all of the above. Property and business are not easily liquidated. 401ks are, but those are taxable unless they're Roth. So 401ks are going to be not only estate taxable, but income taxable. If, for example, you have a $5 million life insurance policy and you own nothing else, your estate is worth $5 million by law. So everything you own in your name is going to be estate taxable. And roughly speaking, you're going to have to come up with a $10 million estate tax check to the federal government within 9 months, generally, of the person passing away. Now, it's going to generally take a lot longer for that, especially if you've got a complex estate, even if it's well prepared. So where does the $10 million come from? Does the estate have to sell the company? Does the state have to sell the property? The house might sell fairly quickly. The 401k and the other liquid assets that you have, the mutual funds and stocks, etc., that you may have, those are liquid per se. Life insurance is definitely liquid. But you have to come up with $10 million somewhere. And if the lion's share of your estate is in illiquid assets, it's very possible that you may have to have a fire sale. So the idea that is a tax break for the rich, there is another side to this, that the rich people, and particularly their families, not the person who passed away, but their families have to deal with. And it's a wake-up call. As an example, the Joe Robbie family used to own the Miami Dolphins, and the Miami Stadium used to be called the Joe Robbie Stadium. It is not any longer because Joe Robbie didn't prepare well enough, irrespective of the number of advisors he likely had, and he died without a will. Not just a trust, he died without a will. And there's thousands of people across the country that have died without a will and didn't have their act together. So while it may be a tax break for the rich on its face, as I like to say, there's three sides to every story. There's your side, their side, and somewhere in the middle is the real truth. So that tax has an opportunity to be made permanent. I know there's a floating of tariff taxes that President-elect Trump wants to push. And reasonable people can agree and disagree as to whether or not that tariff is going to be good or bad. The goal, as it's been suggested, is to try to force U.S. Based manufacturers to bring their stuff home. But there's wiggle room as to how they manipulate the stuff made in Vietnam or Mexico or China or wherever it's made, and then they finish the product here, and now because it's finished here, it's considered American made, so they kind of usurp the rule. I know there's been casual conversation about a national sales tax and getting rid of the income tax. I personally don't have a problem with that. The problem I have is I don't trust the Congress to honor those things because they spend like drunken sailors. And the last thing that we have to deal with, and this is where we get into what's going on with the market these days. The market went nuts when President-elect Trump got elected. Good. That's great. But we have some fundamental problems in our system that haven't gone away. Social Security is going bankrupt. And if they don't make a change by the year 2033, there will be a 1/3 cut in the Social Security benefit that senior citizens are getting. A 1/3 cut. By law, that's going to happen, folks. Now, I know a lot of people say, this is my money. Well, yep, it is your money. However, that Social Security Trust Fund is actually filled with IOUs because Congress has invaded the Treasury, particularly the Social Security Trust Fund, to spend for their own like. And some of that had to do with wars, some of that had to do with Obamacare, frankly, some of that had to do with COVID, and we have spent money, but now we are $35 or $36 trillion in debt. Interest rates are much higher than they were even 2 years ago. Cost of living is high. This is a fundamental truth. Healthcare costs are going up. 14,000 people a day, roughly speaking, are turning 65. That's going to put pressure on Social Security, and that's going to put pressure on the healthcare system and everything in the food chain. So when I hear a politician, and Trump has been guilty of this, to say we're not going to touch Social Security, defies logic. Just utterly defies logic. And I'm hoping that some reasonably thinking people up there are going to deal with this. Now here's the other side. The government's bloated. They need to cut jobs. They need to cut. Real cuts. 20% across the board cuts. If you have a company or you're in a company and they're bleeding cash, what's the first thing that happens? They cut staff. They cut benefits. They cut things that they know that are in their control to stop the bleeding. That's the one thing government entities, at least at the federal level, don't do. It is way bloated. There's repetition and dual things that are going on, triplicate things that are going on in the government level that don't need to happen. And I heard something yesterday that's over 726,000 people have been hired in the federal government in the last year. That to me is outrageous, especially when the average income is pushing $100,000 a year, and then adding benefits on top of it. That's outrageous to me. So something is going to have to break. And while the stock market is going up, and bravo for everybody who's in the stock market, there is a day of reckoning coming. Alan Greenspan back in the 90s said there was irrational exuberance going on in the marketplace. And I'm not sure if Alan Greenspan is still alive today, but if he is, I'm sure he's thinking the same thing now. We can't sustain this unless we make changes. We're going to go to break. We're done with our politics, or at least politics and how elections affect taxes and health care. There are a lot of different things that are going to have to take place, folks. Hopefully our leaders will make the right decisions and put this country back on a track that is going to make us all proud. Doesn't matter what your party is, because at the end of the day, we all get gas, we all buy milk, most of us, we all go to the grocery store, and we're seeing the pain of what happens when costs get out of control. With that said, we'll be right back. This is 101.5 FM, WLCB, Slade's Corner, Wisconsin. My name is Bill Miksch. I'm president of WDMA Financial Group. This is your Insurance Corner, and we'll be right back after these short messages.